In our starting point photography segment, Melissa and I were talking about this a few months ago, and then more recently, about a week or so ago. We got an email from someone asking if on our Lisbon trip, Lisbon is going to be March 23rd to 30th in 2019, Lisbon, Portugal, the starting point photography workshop in Lisbon. And someone was asking, were there going to be any other places to go on this trip? And basically, the idea is that you see these kinds of things all the time, where you can go to like 5 cities in 7 days, kind of thing, or at the very least, Lisbon is very common in Lisbon or in Portugal for people to go to Lisbon and the Algarve, which is the resort area. Think of it as the Portuguese Riviera, or Lisbon and Porto, which is another city, smaller city to the north of Lisbon. It's a 3-4 hour train ride away. Or Lisbon and Sintra, or. And there was a couple of reasons why I said no to that. And one of the reasons is logistics. It's just a pain in the butt for me, a non-travel agent person, to try to organize hotel and possibly transportation for 2 different places. So I didn't want to deal with that aspect of it. Plus, from a personal point of view, I don't like those 5 days and 5 cities in 7 days kind of thing. I don't want to unpack that often. When I'm going to get to the hotel, I want to take up my little toiletry bag, put it on the shelf, and not touch it for 7 days. I want to be able to unpack my clothes and not pack them again for 7 days. I hate this. Every single night, every single morning, you're repacking your clothes and going out. And then you got to find transportation to the airport or the train station. And then you have to get from the train station down to another hotel. You have to check into a different hotel at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, in which case you have to wait. It's all just too much of a hassle for me. But the other aspect of it, and I think what's even more important, is what Melissa and I have talked about being the difference between being a traveler and being a tourist. And what did that mean to you when you and I were talking about it?
Oh, I just want to say also the time that takes to do all of those things, to pack up your toiletries, and it takes a lot of time to do all that, and then you're wasting all that time. Um, I love the idea of being somewhere and sinking into it to experience going back to things at different times of day, different light for photography. Thinking, I'd like to go back to that spot and try it from a different angle or that sort of thing. I love the idea of going into cafes and going in again and again and having that person that lives in that place go, hello. And then they may even know what you ordered from before. I like that idea. Um, I don't mind going to the same places,
I,
sinking in.
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily go to the same art gallery. Some art people would, but for me, no.
No,
I
no,
generally,
it's
once I've gone through the museum once, I'm not going to go back to the museum the next day,
no,
generally.
no. Some people might,
But
but
for me, it's what you're talking about is I want to experience things not only more than once, but at different times of the day, not just for who's there and who's around there, but also as a photographer for the light. The perfect example is there's a place you can do a Flickr search for it or Instagram search. It's called the Belém Tower, Belem, Belém Tower, and it is a very very iconic view of Portugal. You'll see it on dozens and dozens and dozens of Instagram stories. I'm just going to pull up a Flickr to show you guys some of these. But the neat thing about it is that because it's right on the water, right on the river of Lisbon, I think it's called the Tagus River.
the Tagus.
Um, it changes from the point of view of water. So the tide will move in and move out. The light will change. And again, my apologies, I'm going to block my beautiful wife's face while I show these pictures. And you can see in these pictures how the light has changed. How not just a sunrise and a sunset will be different, but how because of where the water has come in, how far the tide has come in. It's almost as if they're almost different buildings.
It really is with that
depending
tower.
on the light and the angle and the tide and probably the seasons as well. Sunrise versus sunset versus mid-afternoon versus cloudy sky versus overcast sky, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The light keeps changing on these kinds of structures. And to me, as a photographer, and if we're doing a photography workshop, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for light. We're looking for different ways light affects the object and the scene and the faces and all the other aspects of the thing. And if you're just a tourist, you don't see that. If you're on a 5-city, 7-day trip of Lisbon and Porto and Barcelona and Madrid and the Algarve, you'll get a chance to go to the Belém Tower on Tuesday morning. And it may be raining Tuesday morning. It may be cloudy. It may be overcast. But that's it. That'll be the last time you'll ever see the Belém Tower, because you're off to Madrid the next day or you're off to Porto the next day. Whereas for us on this trip, as travelers, as people who are not just, I always think of the difference between a tourist and a traveler is a tourist visits a place. A traveler experiences a place. A traveler takes the time. You're not going to get to know a place. You're not going to become a native of Lisbon or Portugal. But you'll experience more of that place by staying in it over time. And not just a day or 2 days, but over, like you said, a week. I can almost guarantee that we'll find a hotel and somewhere around the corner will be a little tiny coffee shop that we'll go into every single morning. Hola! And hola! And he'll say something to us in Portuguese and we'll go, ah. We don't speak Portuguese. But we'll order a cafe au lait or whatever the hell it is that we're going to order. And we'll feel like we're part of that guy's life for that moment in time. We're not just tourists wandering in and out. By the third or fourth days, and be going, Beauty and the Beast. That's what we'll call us. We'll call us Beauty and the Beast, because that's a good joke. Why did I get a laugh out of that? You weren't even paying attention. Never mind. Monty says this is a different kind of trip. Going to just visit tourist attractions. It's a lot different from going to specifically take pictures and practice technique. Less time for instruction and practice if you're spending a lot of time on the logistics, going from point A to point B to point C and back again. And even if it's not that, even if you're not standing with Melissa and I learning about photography, you're standing in that place, in a place you can go, wow, this is really pretty. I wonder what it's like 12 hours from now.
Yeah.
When the sun is completely different. I love the idea of, and if you're coming on this trip, and if you want to hang out with at least me, I don't know about Melissa, I will be up for sunrise. I bet we'll be there for 7 days. I got to say I'll be up for sunrise for at least 5 of those days.
Of course.
Because of the beauty and sunrise light, sunrise and sunset light is spectacular. But I can definitely see us.
Well, and it has been said about the tiles that they reflect this beautiful light at different times. So
I think that's some of the reasons why we're not planning on doing a multi-itinerary or multi-city tour. I'm just not comfortable trying to organize that. I don't know. If we had a tour agent who said, hey, Sean, we can get you 4 days in Lisbon and 3 days in Porto, I don't know if I would.
Can you do a day trip to Porto, though?
No, it's you can. And by the way, if this is something you want to do, if you want to go to Porto, we're not stopping you. We're not saying you can't go. By the way, the Wednesday will be a free day, and the Wednesday is when you're welcome to come with Melissa and I. We're going to Sintra.
Yes, we will
Wednesday.
go to Sintra.
It's a 45-minute train ride away, and then from Sintra we're going to Capadocia, which is the westernmost tip of the continent of Europe and Asia. So if you want to come with us on that day trip, you're more than welcome to do that. Sintra is a unmissable place. You have to go to Sintra. You could do Porto on your own if you got up first thing in the morning, took that 3.5 hour train ride into Porto, and then maybe that evening came back. That's a long train ride for a day. So you'd have to either check out of your hotel, go to Porto, stay overnight in Porto, and then come back the next day, kind of thing. So I think that's why I think the logistics by yourself is a little awkward. If we were all doing it, maybe. And I've been thinking about it, that if I heard from a travel agent, because I cannot figure out why some travel agent, or the 20, 25 travel agents I've spoken to, and if you know a travel agent, please get them in touch with me. Tell them to help me out. I've not been able to figure out why we haven't been able to get any travel agent interest in this. And part of me thought it was because we'd only planned on doing one city and they can't make as much money. I don't think that's true, but I can't think of any other reason why a travel agent wouldn't have jumped it, because all the travel agent has to do is find us a hotel. That's all they got to do. There's nothing else. People are going to find their own airfare there. All we need is someone who knows the hotel situation in Lisbon, knows of a hotel that's in that general area of the Santa Justa lift that has space for us to do an hour-long class in the mornings. That's it. I got to believe that every travel agent who's ever been to Lisbon can find us that place. Trying to do it on your own is very difficult, because a lot of the hotel websites are just awful websites. Some don't translate into English. Some don't have good descriptions of their rooms. For example, one of the things we were talking about in the pre-show is that a lot of the hotels will say that the room is a suite, but then you look at the picture and it's just a big room. It's not, because here in North America we think of a suite as being a separate room. There's a living space. There'll be a couch and a love seat and a TV and a coffee table kind of thing. But a lot of these suites in some of these hotels don't have that.
No.
And none of them will tell you how much their rooms cost. All of them charge their rooms by the day. And we don't need a room. We don't need a meeting room for the day. We just need it for an hour each morning. So there's just a bunch of little minor logistic things that it's hard to find out from this side of the Atlantic. So if anyone knows of a travel agent who has any kind of expertise in this, please, 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 I'm begging you, help a brother out.
I also think because Lisbon is being described as a vibrant, it's like Florence. Like, I'm quite happy to be in Florence and not go anywhere else.
Yes.
Because you can sink into such a beautiful historical place. And we've been told that Lisbon is vibrant and it's small enough that you can just sink in a week to be there is perfect.
The problem with Florence, though, is that it's much centralized, in the word I'm looking for, but it's much closer to other places you want to go. Pisa is only an hour and a half away.
Well, yes. I have no urge to go to Pisa.
Siena is only 45 minutes away. San Gimignano, which I can never say, is only 45 minutes away. So there's a lot of places that you'd want to go for a day trip to visit.
That's nice.
That are really easy to get to. It's not a 3-hour train ride kind of thing. Montepulciano is half an hour, 45 minutes away. So those are the places that we've heard of. I'd love for you to see Siena. It's a beautiful, beautiful city. Again, it's one of the old hill towns up on a mountainside. Assisi is pretty close. St. Francis Assisi. That's where his monastery is. So those kind of things would be neat. But yeah, you could easily spend the whole day in Florence just being Florentine. There's enough history there. There's enough art, culture, food.
A whole week, you mean?
The whole week. Sorry.
Yes.
Susan says, I really like the extra days in a city if the primary language is not English or Karuk, or maybe Spanish. The language barrier makes me need more time to settle and get my bearings. That's an interesting way of looking at it. Susan, I hadn't thought of it quite that way. For me, part of it is I'm lazy. But part of it is the photography in me. And as a photographer, this is a personal philosophy. This is not the way all photographers need or have to be. Is I like finding a place that I like the look of and just stopping there and just experiencing that place, whether that be from the point of view of the clouds going over a mountain, whether that be from ships moving in a harbor. I could have sat at Sydney Harbor for days. You could have just set me on the point outside the Sydney Opera House and I would have been fat and happy for just bring me lunch. That's it.
Very vibrant.
All day long. But when it comes to people, I can definitely see myself sitting in a spot and watching people and photographing people for hours and hours and hours on end as the light changes and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The other aspect of it too is that you have, as a I don't want to say beginner, but the best times of day for light is that early morning hour, sunrise to about 10 a.m. depending on the time of year, and then from about 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the evenings, again depending on that time of year. And from 10 to 5 is when I'd be a tourist. From 10 to 5 each day is when I go out and go to the museums and go to
in
the
the
art galleries,
markets and have
go
lunch
shopping
and
exactly. That's have your siesta. That's when you want, because for me the light isn't as interesting. You can still take good photos there, but when you settle into a place, when you're a traveler and you stay in one place, you have the luxury of not being a photographer.
Well, you're
from
not
10 to
catching a
5.
train at the perfect time
That's
of
right.
day to take photographs.
Exactly. You're not rushing off. You're not in a cab somewhere. You're
And
not.
going, it's such a beautiful time to take photographs.
So hopefully that helps some people understand why we're sticking to Lisbon for our trip, and hopefully it means that you won't regret going on this trip. I guarantee you won't. I mean, it's going to be us. You are going to learn a lot about photography. You're going to have a lot of fun learning about photography. You're going to be in a beautiful, wonderful, historical, vibrant city, great culture, great food, beautiful people. You're going to get some really, really good,
It's cheap.
dirt cheap. And the other advantage is you'll take home information, lessons, knowledge that you'll be able to take on your next trip or take pictures of the friends and family as you go along. If you need more information about it, send me an email to Sean@yourmaclifeshow.com. Susan says, I was pretty flustered the first day in Leipzig, Germany. Very few people spoke English in that former East German city. I still remember trying to find my way around Tokyo with the idea of a language that was utterly foreign. At least Slavic languages, German and French and English and those have the occasional word that you can pick up on that's in English or sounds like it's English, and that helps you. It's not a translation, but at least you feel a little more comfortable. Japanese, nothing. There's not a single word in Japanese that makes sense to you. And so it's complete incomprehension. Follow that up by the language. The language is written in letters that you do not understand. If it's in German or Spanish, you might be able to figure out, that word means street. Rue in Italian and Spanish, R-U-A, means street.
Yes.
Strasse in German means street.
Oh,
so
yes.
you can sort of figure that out.
It's harder to get your bearings when you really have no idea.
In Tokyo, there was no way. And I'm Godzilla. And just the culture shock of me just being a foot taller than everybody was very, very odd. I never felt that weird about being tall before. I've always felt very comfortable and I like being tall, but they were just like, I was almost apologetic to be, I'm so sorry, you're also little.
Excuse
MacMan,
me
you're
if I
a tourist
step on you.
attraction. Exactly, yeah. MacMan, hoping I can still go. There's a fairly good chance I'm just a bit by the fact I was pregnant. Oh, wait. Wow. Talk about reading two texts at the same time.
Wow.
MacMan says, hoping I can still go. Fairly good chance I may be changing jobs. If that happens, yeah. Susan Gear, getting food was the hardest part. Complicated just by a bit by the fact I was pregnant at the time, and food became just very weird.
So what the Lonely Planet people? What's happening with
Next
that?
week.
Oh, next week.
Next week. We're starting our giveaways as of next month. Nice folks at lonelyplanet.com are giving us a guidebook giveaway. And you don't have to be coming with us to Lisbon to win one of the guidebooks. You can win a guidebook for your own town. Or if you're planning on a different vacation next year, you can win the guidebook for that. So don't forget, you can sign up for that. It's easy. You can go to the website, yourmaclifeshow.com. Right there at the top of the page, it says Friends of YML form. You click on that form, you send me an email, and I drop your name into our virtual hat. If you're a subscriber of YML, if you pay $2, $5, $10, $15 a month, whatever it is, you can go to the website at yourmaclifeshow.com. On the left-hand side there, you can click on the subscription button. You automatically get entered into our contest. You don't get to fill out any additional forms. All of our subscribers are automatically entered into the contest. And in addition, for every $2 above the initial $2 subscription, we give you an extra entry form. So if you subscribe for $5, you get 2 entry forms. If you subscribe for $10, you get 10 entry forms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I add more tickets into the virtual hat for you if you subscribe to Your Mac Life. So subscribing helps us out and makes you more eligible to win a prize. We'll have other prizes too to give away because starting September, that's the 6 month. We're inside 6 months of going to Lisbon, so we're gonna have hopefully a lot more contests, a lot more stuff to give away over the ensuing 6 months. Got a fun question from Kate Schmidt. Kate and Nathaniel Schmidt. Kate asked me on Twitter, she said, I'm looking to get a DSLR, but she's very specific things she's looking for. Any recommendations for an amateur photographer with small hands? I'd like to take better pictures of food and birds. The problem with that, Kate, small hands, not a problem. The first thing I said to her was, don't buy online. If you're not sure exactly what kind of camera you want, do not buy a camera online because you never know how it feels. The material itself. I've seen cameras that look great online, but you touch them and they feel very plasticky and they feel very strained. You don't like the physical sensation of the camera. The other aspect of it that you may not like the button placement. I've often said I love the Olympus M1, but because it's physically a much, much smaller camera than my DSLRs, I find it very cramped. And I'm really not crazy about the button placement of it. Not that the buttons are placed poorly, but because they're small buttons and they're close together, I'm not crazy about them. So unless you know exactly the camera you want, don't buy it online. Go to your local camera store, go to your local Best Buy, get a deal from them. Price match. Ask the folks at Best Buy to price match what you see on Amazon or some other website. But don't go to the camera store and then buy online. Please, please don't do that because you would do that, wouldn't you?
No, I'm wondering why.
People do this all the time, and I don't like it because you go to the store and you use their knowledge, their physical store, their physical cameras, their light, their electricity, their heat, all that kind of stuff, and then you walk away and buy somewhere else. You don't give them the profit. You give them the money they need to stay in business.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this a lot in the motorcycling community in particular. People will go into the local motorcycle shop, try on helmets, get advice of what's the best kind of helmet to get, and then go online and buy that same helmet. And then 6 months later go, why'd my local motorcycle shop shut down? Because you wouldn't buy anything, you cheap bastard.
Oh, I know. I like to support local
Now,
business.
if the price is ridiculous, if you can buy a camera or a motorcycle helmet for $500 online and your store is charging $1,000, no, buy it online. But if they're charging $50 extra or even $100 extra, first thing you do is ask them to price match. A lot of stores will. And even if they can't price match, a lot of stores will drop the price by a little bit. $20, $30, whatever.
At least give them a chance.
Give them a chance. Give the local physical store a chance to get your money, especially if you use the store for their information. So I told Kate the first thing she wants to do is look at the physicality of the camera, how it feels in her hand. And for her, if she has small hands, a mirrorless camera like the M1, Fuji makes great mirrorless cameras, Olympus does, Panasonic makes a decent mirrorless camera, Sony makes a fantastic mirrorless camera. And just this past week, Nikon has announced their mirrorless camera. I wouldn't buy it though. It's so new. I'm going to let Nikon shake out their issues before I would buy a Nikon mirrorless camera. And then in the next couple of weeks, it's rumored that Canon will be announcing a mirrorless camera. So if you have smaller hands, a mirrorless camera is going to be a better camera for you. The problem is Kate wants to take pictures of two completely different things. Food and birds.
Birds eating food?
Well, that would help. Because food is stationary. And you can get real close to it. Birds, not so stationary, can't get real close. So she's looking at two completely different photographic styles. completely different techniques.
Isn't that just to do with the lens, though?
It is, but it's also to do with lighting. You can control, if you're shooting food, you can control the lighting. You know, if I'm shooting a sandwich on my desk, I can add more lights, block light. Can't do that outside with birds. I can use flash to shoot food. I can't use flash to shoot birds. I'll need a possibly a wide angle or a portrait lens to shoot food. I'll need a long lens to shoot birds. So, and those are exact opposite. So the first thing she wants to do is get a camera that fits her, because any camera you buy, the manufacturer will have lenses that will suit those needs. They may not have as many as some of the other ones, but for a beginner, you'll be fine. You'll be able to take good food and bird photos until you get more accomplished with the camera itself, and then you can look at something more specific. Monty says that's less the camera and more the choice of lenses and needing extra light for shooting food shots, though. You can do both of those with a mirrorless camera. Absolutely. Yeah, you can definitely do both those kinds of shots. It's a matter, like I said, of technique, of situation, and lenses that will make a big difference.